before YouTube kicks us off. So we're gonna have to cut it out at that point.
Oh man.
Let's see.
I like really stocked up on snacks and stuff too.
Perfect. I
This
forgot
was
to
gonna
do
be
that.
like an 8-hour marathon of us.
I should probably have my wife send the dog in with a snack like tied to the collar or something.
Oh my god, that would be amazing.
Let's see. All right, sharing stuff. I don't know if anybody is here yet. Let's see. Go here. Guys, if you're here, you should comment something. And if you can hear me, you should comment something too. That would be good too. Yeah, so a little bit of a different process. Oh, yep, I can hear myself now. Oh gosh, that's so annoying when you can hear it in your own ear right after you said it and then you're trying to talk.
Yeah.
Here we go.
The latency it can get super weird. I've yet to figure out a way because you're using so many programs at one time.
Yeah,
It's just
so
like
many.
it's crazy to try to get it all working correctly.
Yep. Oh man. Hey, we got quite a few people here. That's awesome. Glad you guys are here. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. And thanks for the being willing to switch up at the last minute too, guys. We'll do proper introductions in just a sec, Arctic Lizard, Katie Clark, but I just got to share a couple of other things real quick. Here we go. Okay, that should be it.
So you're going to be the only one that can see what everyone's commenting in real time, I'm assuming.
Let's see, there is a link, and I don't know if you have it, but you should be able to pull up like the live stream as well. Like you could, it should be like live on my channel right now.
Okay.
And I also just tweeted it, so that would be another good place to click on it if you want.
You're so cool with your tweets.
Yeah, I try. Yeah, but no, if you see like anybody's comment and you want to say something to somebody, feel free. That is more than acceptable. Okay, cool. Exiting out of all of the other stuff that I screwed up today. We're calling this good. Good stuff. Okay, so welcome everybody to the live stream. We are going to be talking to Matt Langston from the band EleventySeven, and he is going to be telling us a little bit about his songwriting process and a lot of other cool things. Some questions sourced from you guys, those of you who are on Twitter way too much and were, happened to see my tweet at the last minute there. But we're going to be doing some really cool stuff here. It's going to be about, like a half-hour live stream. We've got a variety of questions, mostly focused on lyric writing, the songwriting process, and stuff like that. Yeah, so welcome to everybody. Glad you guys are all here. And if you're watching this in the future, thanks for waiting for that obnoxiously long time it took me to set everything up and get ready. But yeah, and welcome, Matt. Glad you're here, man.
I'm happy to be here, man. This is great.
Yeah, Matt and Davey Davenport, the other half of EleventySeven right now, actually had me on their podcast, Eleventy Life, a while ago, and I will be sharing that link later so you guys can go check that out. What do you guys talk about on Eleventy Life?
Well, so Eleventy Life, basically, like the tag for Eleventy Life is, gosh, what is it? Making music, making a living, and making it out alive. And it sort of like started out as us just sort of getting us and our friends in a room and kind of having like group therapy about all the weird stuff that we experience in the music industry, specifically like in the Christian music industry. And it's kind of chronicled our journey out of faith-based music business.
Okay.
Into just like regular music business.
And that's a really good place to start, because I was going to introduce you, and I will say, guys, that if you're not listening to EleventySeven, you definitely should be. A patron, Joel Larson, actually put me onto your music, and I started listening to it. And I think he never thought just how far I would go to like listen to you guys and chat with you guys. But it was totally worth it. And Joel, I told him I would dedicate this stream to him because he's the one who made it possible many months ago. You've got a crazy big fan named Joel out there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Love you, Joel. Thank you so much for connecting us. But like it's totally just, he's just connecting me with like a super awesome person. Because I literally, like, I think we did something and then I was like, hey, you should come on the podcast. Like you mentioned us in a YouTube video or something.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like, oh yeah, come on.
Yeah, and that was a lot of fun. You guys asked some very uncomfortable questions, I will say.
Oh,
but it was
good.
totally worth it. So I've tried to come up with a couple of like uncomfortable questions here to like get back at you with, but we'll see if those
Oh,
actually
good.
do any
Yeah, yeah,
good.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm into that.
Yeah. I trying to think. Oh yeah. I was introducing you guys. Yeah, you guys started out with a lot of contemporary Christian music. You were kind of in the pop punk, and I've seen and I've heard in some of your older music some similarities to bands like Hawk Nelson, Reliant K, stuff like that. But it's definitely come a long way. You guys you stopped for a little while in 2014, picked back up in 2016, and then you came out with the album Rad Science, which is the coolest thing. And then my other favorite album by you guys is, oh gosh, I can't even remember the name. Mountain Medley, Mountain Music Medley, right?
Some fan, Clifford.
Yeah, for real.
No,
Well, wait,
it's Attack of the Mountain Medley is what
oh
you're
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. But I was going to say too, I got my Spotify summary of the year today. And out of the 100 top songs that I said I listened to this year,
Yeah.
be warned, it was like 60,000 minutes worth of music. So it's pretty respectable.
Oh my God.
5 out of the 100 were from you guys. So I might not have been able to remember the album name right there, but I'd say that's pretty good.
You've been putting in the time, Clifford.
I have. Yeah.
That's proof.
Putting in all the effort,
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean that's a little bit of an introduction for me, but I mean, you want to tell us a little bit about the band and about yourself?
Yeah, no, we I feel like we were almost like got signed to a record deal when those were still a thing. Like I feel like we were on the very like far end of that, like before that industry just kind of didn't really work the way it used to work anymore. So we were like 18, 19 when we got offered a record deal from this really small indie label called Flicker Records. And after we put our first record out on there, that label got sold to a subsidiary of Sony. And so we ended up kind of moving from an indie to more of a major, and then moving from there to like doing a bunch of stuff overseas and internationally and everything. So we just got really fortunate kind of catching the tail end of all of that. But we were also like kind of young and didn't really know who we were or what we were or what we were about. And I think having really young, impressionable, like teenagers sort of thrown onto this like spiritual platform within a industry based on, Protestant Christianity was really confusing and really hard.
Hmm.
And yeah, we're still kind of dealing with the fallout of that, but we're bringing a lot of other people on along for the ride as we sort of work out our approaches to music and art and life, how those all kind of inform each other.
And
So,
is that something that, people can find out more about by listening to your music?
oh well, yeah. I mean, like I think our music is definitely sort of a chronicling of the journey. It's
Gotcha.
like dumb teenage pop kind of moves into, oh my god, what are we doing here? Kind of moves into what does it all mean? Kind of moves into, hey, let's party. So it's like it's definitely looking back over our discography. It's sort of like we really are trying to bring people along for the ride and just we thought really dumb thoughts when we were teenagers, and they're on the internet for everyone to hear. So,
That's good. I'm gonna have to bring it back to that at some point because a
yes.
lot of the people who are watching now are teenagers, and a lot of them are worried. I mean, they have a lot of really good thoughts, but we all have some thoughts that maybe shouldn't be made into a song. And so there'll probably be a question at some point asking, like, how do we tell the difference so that we don't have songs hanging around the internet later that we wish we didn't?
Yes.
Or how do we not get known for the kinds of songs that we don't want to have to be writing henceforth?
Right. Right.
So maybe a good place to start then is just with your process. When it comes to writing a song for you, and maybe just pick like you can either just, if you have like an idea of an average process, because I'm sure there's no such thing. Maybe there's like a story of a song that you wrote for Rad Science that would maybe be a good example of a process.
Okay, yeah, that's actually a really great way to frame that question. For everybody out there that's listening that does write songs and has these kinds of questions, like, am I writing the right way? Am I doing it the right way? Quit worrying about that. Quit worrying about like the doing it the right way. Worry more. Actually, don't worry at all, but strive for doing it effectively. Don't try to do it the correct way. Just try to do it in a way in which you are getting out what you mean to say, that you're saying what's most important to you in the most powerful way you can that day or in that moment. You're like, I think sitting down and trying to figure out how to write a song that's gonna, like, change the world and move hearts and souls and all of that stuff, I feel like that's working from a completely wrong end
Mm,
of things. I say every time that I've seen people write really important, songs or the songs that move me are not necessarily the ones that, like, everybody's gonna relate to. They're just sort of a snapshot of a raw sort of honesty or a sentiment of what you're feeling sort of right then, because there's so many people on the planet that are tuning into that frequency that you're on right then, and they want a way of helping them explore their feelings, a way of helping them express their feelings, and I feel like effective songwriting is just tapping into that and doing that the best you can that day.
interesting. So to tie that back in with something that I teach my composition students,
Yeah.
like English classes and stuff, I always tell them you got to narrow. And I use those exact words that you use are very similar. Like you can't save the world with this essay. They'll be like, I want to write an essay, and it'll be like this big. They're like, I'm gonna, take either side on gun control, and this essay is gonna be the end all be all essay on gun control. Well, bad news. You've got 3 to 5 pages. And in a song, you've only got 3 to 5 minutes. And so the more you narrow, it sounds like what you're saying is like the more you get really specific, like a specific instance, the more powerful there is a chance for your lyrics to be.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. I mean, I'm in the middle of writing a whole bunch of new material for what's either going to become the next Eleventy record or a Jelly Rocks record, which is this other, like, synth pop thing that I do. And it surprises me how every time I turn the computer on and set up all my synthesizers and guitars and everything and get ready to write, I completely blank. I feel like every time I write a song, I have to relearn how to write a song again. Like, I know what the structures are, but it's about, like, getting to this place in your head, and you kind of have this, you have to go through that first wave of self-doubt and just I don't know, an emotional tsunami that sort of sweeps over you, that's like you'll never say anything important again, you'll never feel anything relatable again,
Yeah.
you'll never be able to do something that was better than the last thing that you did, and all that's awful. It's
Yeah.
garbage. It's a garbage mentality. It's not gonna get you anywhere. It's a lie. Not everything you feel is always the truth. Like, I feel like a lot of songwriting is just developing an emotional intelligence of when to tell
Mm.
yourself to shut up.
What's
Um,
a way that you've busted through that recently?
I like to be really active whenever I'm writing, and I like to not come into the studio thinking like I'm gonna write a song. I like to come into the studio saying, the most important thing I can do right now is make playing a priority. So I will hook up everything that I love the way it sounds. Like, I have my go-to synthesizers that I love playing around with, and I could just, like, doodle on them for hours. So I'll set them up and just, like, it's more for me, it's become more about saying no to everything else. Just saying, "Look, my phone goes off, like, I'm not taking any if you knock on the door while I'm doing this, I'm not gonna answer the door. I've done all my chores for the day." Like, I have this 3 or 4 hours that I'm just gonna sit here,
Mm.
and if nothing happens, that is totally okay, but I'm gonna sit here and make playing a priority, and almost every single time, something will come out of that. An idea will come out of that. Sometimes it's math, and sometimes it's science. Like, sometimes it's just exploring the wonder of the world around you, and it just sort of speaks to you and through you, and you come up with these ideas and phrases and funny thoughts that you're just like, "Oh, wow, that's kind of unique or fun," or "I really like that, so I'll write that down." And then there are other times where you're just opening up, rhymezone.com and just it's a complete, like, long division problem where you're like, "Well, I need a word to work with this, and then I need a thought to work with the word." And so, yeah.
Very nice. Yeah. Oh, that's good stuff, man. You said something about effectiveness earlier,
Sure.
and what makes the song effective?
I mean, I think it depends on sort of what you're talking about. I think maybe what I'm referring to is, if you are saying something that is engaging a listener, and the weird thing about that is you're always having to pull yourself out of artist mode and throw yourself into listener mode,
Mm.
because you tend to gravitate towards words or thoughts or phrases that do that for you, that sort of ring your bells or read your mail. So, like, you're your own I tell people this all the time, like, your artistry is your preference. Like, when people see the art that you make, they just see a huge collection of your preferences, 1,000 decisions that you made along the way. So, that's really helpful for me to look at that and just sort of zoom out and say, "Well, all I have to do is sit here and have an opinion about what sounds good or doesn't, and keep going until it builds on itself."
That's something that I've been thinking a lot about too recently. Just, it's not always about doing it the perfect way.
Yeah,
It's about doing it the way you want to do it.
yeah,
And to some extent, you got to say consequences be damned. And I'm just going to go with what I want to do.
yeah.
Um, yeah, very good stuff. So maybe like a slightly harder question, but not quite the philosophical depth that I hope to ambush you with later. Uh,
Oh
this
my god.
comes from Lydia Gentry, and she asked, "What's a way to know that you shouldn't touch your lyrics anymore?" So you're writing a song, you spend a lot of time on it, and you think, I could keep tweaking it, but I kind of want to be done. Like, how do you draw the line?
God, what a great question. Um, I think
Maybe
I
the
think I don't know
yeah.
I don't know entirely what that looks like for everybody else. Um, I do know these 2 things that, good is the enemy of best, and done is better than perfect. And writing the line between those things of say like, for me, I feel like I know when I hit my lyrical spot where I'm happy with it. And it might be something where I'm like, "Oh, this sounds like sort of semi cryptic," or I used a fun word, or like I just love the way that word sounds in the song, or the way it sort of plays on this beat, or the consonants, or the alliteration of it. Just sounds kind of cool. And it might not make the most sense. It might not be the most sort of on the nose lyric, like "I love you, you love me, we make babies." You know, it's just maybe it's something a little more cryptic, a little more, with a little more depth to it. But yeah, like, I feel like when I hit it, I know it. It's like when I'm happy hearing it over and over again, or it
Yeah.
speaks to me in some way, um, then I normally just kinda call it a day. But,
So
like, the other thing too is, like, being in a band, you always have this really cool sort of sounding board
yeah,
for your ideas, where if you say something that kind of strikes somebody the wrong way, or they're like, "Oh, wow, that's really stupid." Like my friend Rob, he absolutely hates this song that I wrote called "Milk the Lightning," and it's, like, probably one of my favorite songs I've ever written just because it's absurd, and I love the absurdity of it, but he
yeah.
can't handle it. He
And,
doesn't get it. It doesn't resonate with him. He's like, "You embarrassed yourself. You should you should quit." Really
That's
funny.
great. That is awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Okay, so we're already talking about lyrics a little bit. I'm curious, "Milk the Lightning," can you give us a quick intro to that? I feel like people's curiosities might be piqued. Quick intro. You said it makes no sense, so where did the idea come from then?
Um, I think that the idea for if I remember this correctly, was sitting up in this old studio that we had in an attic at the time we were making the album that song is on, and I was just like, "Oh my god, this just I couldn't come up with any ideas." I was super stressed out. I was having one of those crises again where it's like, "You'll never say anything important ever again, and everyone will hate you, and your life won't have meaning." Um, and I think it was literally just this thought of like, I'm just really sitting here trying to catch lightning in a bottle. And then from there, it was just this idea. I was like, it'd be really cool if you could just milk lightning. Anytime you wanted to, you needed an idea or inspiration
Nice.
or anything. And that was honestly where it came from. And it sounds amazingly sexual to everyone else. I promise it didn't come from that place. Um, but
It
it feels like that's the feedback I get on that song all the
yeah,
time.
kinda got like a mixed metaphor thing going on there, putting lightning in a bottle and then, like, the idea of mixing a cow or something, or milking a cow or something like that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
And so it sounds like a lot of your creative process comes out of, a place where you're not having that great of a time. Would you say I mean, it's funny because you have these, like, such upbeat sounding songs, but the only 2 examples you've given so far, you're, like, depressed, and then you come up with some lyrics. Like, where do lyrics usually come from for you? Is that usually the place you're at, like frustration?
I mean, this is why I kind of feel weird giving definitive advice on
Yeah.
songwriting because I feel like I try to write, but like my music is sort of therapy for me
Yeah.
because I feel like I do sort of lean into or sort of gravitate towards the melancholy of it all. And that just might be my homeostasis is sort of in vaguely sad and a little bit listless. And
You're
I'm always trying to pull myself out of it.
you're probably gonna find a lot of people who feel a similar way watching
Mm.
this video. Probably people coming from a similar place.
Yeah, like if you are there, I'm there with you. Hello, welcome. Um, so yeah, but I don't think that songwriting has to be such turmoil. Like I know that there are people like I suffer for my art and I just have to get this out. I get that. That's awesome. I don't think that that approach is always like a sustainable way to a healthy life or relationships or to continued creative output. I think you have to figure out a way to have a marriage with your creative output in the same way that you would have a marriage with a person. The longer that you create, the more your relationship with creativity becomes infinitely more complicated, but also infinitely more deep
Hmm.
and expansive. It grows in all directions. It will take you to lower places and higher places. Um, I feel like the trick is just continuing to show up and be ready for whatever is going to happen.
Interesting. So it sounds like part of what you're saying here is that it takes a lot of hard work and it takes a lot of kind of getting to know yourself and your own processes and just practicing and doing.
Yeah, I mean, the hardest part is just being quiet. It's so
Mm.
easy to sit down and be like, "Oh, well, I'm writing some lyric ideas on my phone." And I was like, "Well, maybe this thing's happening on Twitter," or like a friend texts you, or you get an update or something, and you're like, "Oh, I'm gonna talk to them." Da, 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 da." That's a creativity killer. That
Hmm.
is anything that's pulling you away from this song. Like, get rid of it. Just be there in the space, like with that song. And again, I'm telling you things that work for me and that I've seen
Sure.
work for other people. There might be some people that are like, I love just writing lyrics from text messages I get from friends, and that's my thing. Cool, you do you, bro.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Oh man, that's something I've been feeling a lot lately too, where, like I go to work and
yeah,
my job, they expect me to answer emails pretty quickly, but I just can't do it because I can't get any long-term work done. And same goes for being creative or putting a video or a script together or something.
yeah,
I mean, so now I answer emails at 10 a.m., 1 p.m., and then 4:30 p.m. right before I leave for work. And I try not to touch
yeah.
the rest of the time because constantly getting dragged away by those notifications, it is a creativity killer.
Dude, that's really, really smart of you. It's the changing of tasks in your brain that sucks away all the power that you have to give. I feel
It
like
burns all those brain calories, those thoughts.
yes, brain calories. I like that a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, this also sounds really similar to your reference to cyberspacing out again and holding out. Is that kind of where this is that kind of like a correlation there?
Oh, yeah, just getting lost in the internet. Just
Yeah.
getting lost in the weirdness that is cyberspace.
So no Bongo Cat for you while you're working on stuff?
I feel like I'm kind of removed from the internet in a lot of ways, so, like, I don't get a lot of the
No, what
memes that
Bongo
people
Cat
talk
is?
about. I
Okay.
don't know what Bongo Cat is.
Well, I mean, as long as you're making music, I guess that's okay.
Yeah, I feel like you can either be that guy who knows all the memes and can laugh at them,
Dang it,
or the guy that has, like, a couple of records that you
dude.
made in your free time.
This is what I'm paying for staying relevant this season. Shoot. Sorry, I don't know if that's helpful. That's a lyric from the song "Holding Out," guys. So you should go check that song out. Yeah, dang it, I just became the first verse of an 11:7 song. All right, so next question then. We've got kids out there who they're writing songs and they've got ideas, and like the number one thing I see people complaining about is they're putting together a song and maybe they get halfway into it, maybe they get 30 minutes into it, maybe they're
Mhm.
like a week into it, and they're like, "Dude, this sucks." What do you say to them?
Yeah, you're right. They do. That's why it's called songwriting and not song happening. I mean, like like that you literally I'm sitting on maybe 6 or 7 song ideas that I'm working through right now, and I have no idea if they are lyrically the most ridiculous thing that I've done. Um, I don't know, but I know that I'm still continuing to hone them in. I'll get a song, I'll craft it out, I'll do, like, the composition part of it, I'll get, like, a cool verse and chorus idea, or one that I'm happy with. Cool is a relative term, so everybody that's listening to this, you might not be a huge fan of my music, and I get that. I'm just saying, I'm also the product of my preference. I make music that I think is cool, and you don't have to. Um, so it's like, I'm working on that, I'm doing my composition on that, and then I'll sit there and do what a lot of top 40 songwriters do for a living, which is called top lining. You've probably talked about this on the show
Yeah.
before.
Yeah,
Like
well,
just a bunch of writers get into a room, and they have top liners who literally just stand in front of a microphone and make up melodies or words or whatever, just little ditties or flourishes. And then normally they have other writers in the room that are going, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, that's cool. And so you'll have one person who's just sort of the well, who's just spilling out all of this well water everywhere. And you have other people that are saying, okay, here's where the water goes in this ingredient. Um, and so when you're a solo singer-songwriter and you're not doing a lot of co-writes with people, that's really hard because you kind of have to play the part of all those people. You have to be the person coming up with the ideas. You also have to be filtering the ideas. And you ultimately have to have the final say on whether or not it gets put out or whether or not it's finished. So, like, I feel you if you are that person that's like, but I never know when. Nobody does.
very
I
good. Yeah. Well, kind of a question to go along with that then too. Nathan Flanagan, a viewer of the channel from Ireland, was curious about how you actually find, like, how are you ever actually like happy with your lyrics? Like, it is closely related to the last question, but I think that a lot of people they're writing something, or even like as they're putting something on the paper, they know that this is going to be bad. And you talked a little bit about the process there. What's like how do you find, like, how do you get into a mental headspace where you're okay with your lyrics as they are? It kind of sounds like I'm talking about children. Like if you had a really bad child, how would you, and you had to accept him or her for who she or he was. I don't know. There's probably some metaphors. I have to do this with my dog Strudel. He is
Yeah.
sometimes a terrible beagle, and
Yeah.
he yips and he yaps and he chews on my carpet. Chews on carpet. I don't understand why he wants to chew on carpet. It
It's
doesn't
an
even
oddly
taste that
shaped
good.
mouth.
Yeah. And so I still have to accept, there he is, yipping and yapping. There you go.
He knows you're talking about him.
Yeah. I gotta accept him for who he is. How do you get into that headspace with your lyrics?
I this is one thing that I tell a lot of people that come into the studio because I do a whole lot of nip and tucking on other people's songs that I either I'm producing or writing for. And a lot of times I'll just tell them like, look, let's go ahead and take the pressure off. Like, this is not the only song you're gonna write. This is not the only thought you're gonna have. And your job is not to move mountains with this one lyric. It's to be here and present and honest about something to the best of your ability today.
Mm,
Do the best that you can today because the rest of the world lives on deadlines. And if they don't meet their deadline, so what? The world keeps spinning. The same is true for you in your creative output. What's the best song that you can write today?
mm,
Write that song, leave it alone for a while. Maybe like give it a week. I give songs like Wish Myself Away was 4 years old,
mm.
sitting on a hard drive gathering dust like before I pulled it out. And I was like, "Oh, okay, I actually think there might be something to work with here." Um, it just depends. They'll sort of pop up, in different phases during the creative process, and sometimes they make sense and sometimes they don't. I'm working on a song right now, for instance, where I was not happy with the lyrics at all, and this other song where I was not happy with any of the music, and I literally just flip-flop them and dragged the lyrics and the melodies from one song into the next one, and I was like, "Oh, wow, that makes a lot of sense." But, like, Cliff, you know this better than anybody else, like, if you're just looking at the lyrics of someone's songs, like, particularly some of the most lucrative music in the world, like top 40 music,
Yeah, yeah.
you're more often than not, 99% of the time, not gonna be reading those lyrics and then thinking, "Wow, this is earth-shattering philosophical commentary. Like, this just really gets me."
Yeah.
Most of the time, that's not the way it is. So a lot of times you have to figure out like what your goal for the song is. Like, is your song, are you trying to be a top 40 sort of pop accessible song? Or are you trying to be as honest and sincere as you possibly can be? And there's varying degrees of all of it. You know, they all kind of live in that world of songwriting, but you don't have to just be, you know, one of them. You can be a little bit of all of it.
That's what I tell the songwriters that I coach too, is you gotta begin with the end in mind.
Mhm.
You have to decide, what do you want this song to do in the end? Are you looking to enjoy yourself and to self-therapize? Well, I
Mhm.
mean, it's pretty easy to do that, just go do it.
Yeah.
Are you looking for this to be a, super famous song that, 10 million people listen to on Spotify? I mean, your work's cut out for you, but at least you have your goal down, and now you know that maybe you need to compromise on the self-therapizing and the having fun. I mean, you gotta first weigh the goals, pick one that you wanna go towards, and then, forget the rest.
Yeah, that's true, a and I feel like I've had that exact conversation with other artists too, where I've been like, "Well, this is not the most accessible idea, and I think maybe we could work on that," and they're like, "No, this is what I wanna say, this is how I wanna say it, and I'm doubling down, and you can't make me move." Um, and that's cool, but if what you wanna do is just say exactly what you wanna say and never want to improve the delivery of it, then go for it. But like you said, like, I think there are a lot of people that listen to your show, that listen to our podcast, who really are interested in writing songs and are judging songs based off of how well they connect with other people,
Yeah,
of how
yeah.
sort of what kind of tribe you can collect around that artistic output, because that's part of the fun of it.
And if your goal is to build a tribe and it's not just about self-expression, then yeah, you gotta go and talk to you gotta go find those people. That's something I tell people too, is they say, "Well,
Mm.
how will I know if this will connect with an audience?" Well, go find the person that you want to be able to connect with this, and then show them the song and ask them if they connect with it. And if they don't, try again.
Yeah, yes.
That obviously is, like, kinda like market research, and that might be a little bit, of an inglorious way to approach the songwriting process or the artistic process or whatever, but I think it's a pretty practical way to do it.
Yeah, well, like, for us, you know, like, we make a living producing music and selling music. And every day it gets harder and harder to do that. And I think one of the things that I've come to realize over the past, I don't know, 6, 7 years, especially with working with other artists, is like, don't hoard your nothing. You know, like, I hear so many bands that are like, "Well, but, you know, if we get approached by this label, that's not gonna happen, pal." Like, that will probably not happen. Like, it was a fluke that it happened to us, and even then, it's just replacing, like, one set of problems for a totally different set of problems, and at the end of the day, you have to decide what kind of artist you're gonna be, what kind of person you're gonna be, you know, what kind of,
Yeah.
I don't know, what kind of pixie dust you wanna put out in the world. Those are more important
Yeah.
questions than.
Live in the present rather than in the future, the what if, you know?
Yes,
Mm,
absolutely.
good stuff.
Absolutely.
Okay, so here, this is one of my ambush questions.
Yeah.
What are some mistakes you've made as a lyric writer or as a songwriter? What are some things that, you wish you could go back and do differently? Whether it's, maybe there's a particular line that you wish you'd never put into a song, or maybe there's like a philosophical underpinning that you wish you'd kind of figured out the right answer to earlier.
Oh, man. Oh my gosh. Clifford!
That's the reaction I wanted. Victory. You don't have to answer it now.
You get nothing now, your question was too good. Um, yeah, I think I look back at other songs that I've written, like, or that I wrote earlier on in my career, and I think, I don't know, something really trivial would be, I think they're kinda wordy. I think they try to fit too many words into a song and ultimately end up with me passing out on stage because I can't say all of them, like, without editing. Um, so, like, it's different things like that, like simplifying, my thoughts about things. Um, the weird thing is, you know, like, when I look back over songs that I've written, there are a lot of songs that I feel like we wrote probably because of where we were in life, or maybe because, we were on a faith-based label. So, like, there's kind of a Christian sort of leaning to a lot of those songs, and I feel
Mhm.
like I love seeing people in that phase of life, or seeing people's thoughts about, Christianity and their faith and sharing their faith through songs, but I feel like such a weird culture around it that it makes it kind of hard and difficult. And I feel like there's some things that I wrote when I was younger that come across as being just judgy or
Mm.
totally out of touch with the world because I wasn't living in the world. Because I wasn't, you know what I mean? Like, if that makes any sense.
Oh, that totally does, yeah.
But,
No.
like, I was also a teenager, and it's okay for you to not be in touch with the world. That's what growing up is for. Like, that's what that process is for. So, I think I spent so much time, like, beating myself up over mistakes that I made that I'm like, "No, that's an accurate snapshot of where I was at that point in life." And the cool thing about life is that it keeps going. Like, mistakes that you made yesterday do not define who you are today. Lame ass lyrics that you wrote 10 years ago or like as an angsty teenager are not the same things that you're going to write as a 20 something, as a 30 something. Like, but the beautiful thing about that is, like I wrote stuff in my 20s that I feel like resonated with my friends who were 20. Like, it was a snapshot of the problems that I had in my 20s. And then when I get into like my late 20s and early 30s, like where I am now, I look at those things and I'm like, wow, that was kind of ridiculous. That was a problem for me. But that just shows that, like, it's okay to grow up. Like, it's okay to move past those problems and find new ones. It's okay to leave those experiences behind that you were honest about and then find new ones. I mean, I feel like the only things that really age well are songs about sexuality. Because everyone's always feeling that and always exploiting it to some degree, particularly in pop music.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so I feel like those thoughts and those ideas about that maybe age a little better than lyrical content that's maybe like, I don't know, more emo in early 2000s.
Yeah, more coming of age type stuff.
Yeah, it sounds weird to say it like that because I'm a huge emo fan. I love that stuff, but yeah, it just depends on how you look at it. I like having fun with all of it. I like the snapshots. I love the cool little, it's like a museum of thought and emotional experience and human experience
Hmm.
looking back over people's art.
Man, we started out talking about kind of your melancholy approach to songwriting and kind of starting from a frustrated place as you were putting lyrics together and songs together. This is getting awfully like good vibey. Like I'm getting really like positive vibes here. I don't know. This is kind of disappointing. I was hoping we could get into some really dark stuff, but this is all sounding like pretty healthy, helpful
I
advice.
mean, you can
You don't sound
nosedive
like
it if
a
you want
frustrated
to.
You don't sound like a frustrated artist to me.
Not today. I mean, you you weren't here yesterday, and I might have different things that I said yesterday, like, "Give it all up, don't start a band. What are you doing with your life? Work for Jeff Bezos." Um, and then today, I'm just, like, the complete antithesis of that. So
What is something that you do? You've talked a lot about personal growth here, and I know that that applies not only to your own personal beliefs and philosophies, who you are as a person, developing and maturing, but also applies to your skill in songwriting and playing music and lyric writing, all this stuff. What's one thing that you do fairly consistently that you feel like is like improving your skills or taking you to the next level?
oh, man, what a great question. I
I,
have
I thought of it myself. That's not
congratulations.
from a book. Dang it.
No, I have learned to revel in the opportunity to surround myself with people who are way better at my weaknesses than I am.
Hmm.
So, like, I've become this sort of person where, like, I'll walk into a music store, and if I see somebody playing a guitar, I immediately wanna run up to them and say, "Show me something I probably don't know." Like, "Show me the coolest thing you know how to play on that guitar." Like, because there's just an infinite amount of expression happening all around us all the time, and maybe Guitar Center is not the best place to find it. But there's so many people that just, like, they think about a keyboard differently than I do. They think about chord structures differently. They think about melodies differently, or they have these really cool ideas or just human expression that's so different and what I would consider to be odd or weird. And that's the stuff that I'm interested in now is like, I want to know all of those different ways of viewing the world, ways of viewing an instrument, of viewing a melody, of viewing a song. Like, to me, that just makes it so much more fun. And being able to work in a studio where there's like always people coming in and shredding guitars and just like tickling ivories who are way, way better. Like I'm not a very
Yeah.
good musician. Like I can hold my own and get the job done.
Yeah.
But I'm more in the composition, songwriting, programming, sort of stuff, like performing sort of stuff. I really appreciate and like. But I've never been the guy that's gonna like strap on a guitar and wow you with my cool solo like that I learned. So
Yeah, me neither. So we're good.
we're
Yeah,
friends now.
don't ask me to show you anything cool. I did make up a chord on the ukulele that later people told me was already a chord, but I felt really proud of myself. So that's where I'm at.
Bravo.
You talked a little bit earlier about, writing for self-therapy. And so the question I'd like to ask then is just in general, what purpose does, do lyrics play in your life? I mean, we know that in music, lyrics can add to the musicality, they can tell the story, but when you think of your life plus lyrics, what do you think of?
Struggle. This is where it might get sort of depressing. It's
Oh,
like,
good. This is what I've been hoping for.
yeah, I mean, I feel like nothing comes easy. It always demands a sacrifice. It always demands that you lay something on the altar, to to get either satanic or Christian, whatever, however you wanna be with the altar metaphor.
Whoever's
Um,
altar it happens to be that day.
yeah, exactly. Like, you are going to have to sacrifice your attention on other things. You're gonna have to sacrifice an idea that you had about yourself that you could write a song in 15 minutes and it would be okay. You know, like, I that's the biggest thing I worry so much more. I have fun creating sounds and programming things and goofing off on synthesizers and playing guitar and making rock and roll. I have a hard time with lyrics and making sure that I'm saying something that I believe in. I think that those are holdovers from when we would do co-writes with other people. Like when we were with the label would put us with songwriters, and those songwriters had in mind what they wanted us to say. And most of the time it was like they wanted to write very Christian, like God will make everything okay songs. And we were like, but that's not the life that we're living, and that's not our truth. That's not what we know like right now. Like I can't tell you that that's true. And um, so I think that sort of put in me at a very young age to make sure that I can stand on stage and I'm never lying to anybody. I'm always saying something that I am feeling in the moment, a struggle that I'm having, an honesty that I'm having a hard time come to terms with, either for me or for other people. Um, and I feel like that even applies to the really goofy shit that I write too. Like sometimes it's just really like this is how I felt that day. I felt like writing something dumb and stupid that I thought was really funny or that kind of tickled my funny bone for a minute, and I did. And you know what? There you go. It's just as honest of a snapshot as it is about, me being like, I've got a coke habit and I don't know what to do with it. I don't. But there's yeah, just for, just for the sake of metaphor,
Yeah, for
or,
sure.
yeah,
Good
example.
metaphor too.
So
Okay. Hey, so real quick, shout out to everybody who is watching right now. And I know that people will be watching this in the future. But I would love to hear if you guys have any questions that you want to, ask Matt. We'll take it to you guys, see if there's anything that has to do particularly with lyric writing or the composition process or something like that. And then I'll go back and look at those in just a second. And then in answer to Riley's question, yes, this will be available afterwards. Let's see. Okay, so I got a couple more personal questions. Uh,
uh-oh.
you were talking just now, and this is something that I talk about a lot, is vagueness versus specificity. And you might not have used those exact terms, but you talked about wanting to go on stage and being able to say something that was honest to you. And as I've been, studying your lyrics and taking a look at what you guys write, there is a lot of specificity. There's a lot of specific cultural references. There's a lot of what sounds like personal stories. And there's a lot of, I don't know, just like stuff that doesn't feel like it could apply to anyone else. So the cyberspace and out again, I feel like a top 40 artist, instead of saying, you know, what am I paying to stay relevant? They might, or, you know, it's actually a better example. They say, you say, friends have been asking when I'm having kids. They might just say something a little more vague and be like, you know, life's rough and I can't fulfill expectations because they,
life's rough and I'm infertile.
yeah.
I knew that's what you were gonna say, Cliff.
I was going to ask you about your fertility. Yes.
Okay.
You know, they write these vague lyrics, and you know, from what I've seen, you could probably confirm or deny, it's so that people can connect with it, and so that, you know, more people with a variety of situations can be like, oh yeah, life's rough for me too. And
Yeah.
instead of saying, you know, it's about, you know, expectations from friends about certain things, they, you know, for somebody else it might be, you know, I had a breakup, or my mom died of cancer or something, all like very valid stuff to like be, you know, upset about. But in your case, you get really specific. So how do you, what are your thoughts on like that balance between specificity to your story and then being vague enough that it applies to everybody else?
Um, I always kind of think that specificity is a is a way to go if it's not alienating someone. And I don't know if I have like a really good um line not to cross on that. I just kind of think like for that song specifically, Holding Out, like I can go through every single one of those lyrics and I can trace like the experience that I had, you know, that made me think of that, or how I was feeling when I was writing it, or how I labored over that line or whatever in the song, just like or alternate lyrics that it used to be. Um, like I don't know if there's a good I don't know if there's a good sort of rule of thumb for that, but I will say, like, I like your idea, and maybe this is what you were getting at, that specificity is so much more interesting than vagueness, and I feel like you would be surprised how special you think your life is and how something can mean only this one thing to you, but there's so many people out there feeling that thing at that moment in time. And that's part of like the vulnerability of the songwriting process, like just being willing to be specific and being willing to say like, yeah, this kind of sucked. This thing happened to me and it sucked. Or I'm kind of a shitty person and I had this thought. Like I'm kind of selfish in this way, or and I'm working on it, like I don't know. I've always value a specific and honest lyric than a vague and dishonest one.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Um, Got to avoid those dishonest lyrics. I was actually just filming a video today where I kind of talk about that. And a lot of people talk about, you know, music is subjective, different strokes for different folks. One thing will sound good to one person, but I'm a firm believer that there are objective standards for what makes good art. Now, I think that probably the scope of what is good is probably bigger than some people will admit, because everybody's kind of got like, you know, country music is only true art, or Christian
Yeah.
music is the only true art, or, you know, they might pick a specific band. Those guys are the only true artists. And the principles we were talking about, is it true? Is it something that reflects reality? Is it good? You know, does it fulfill the purpose that it was intended? And is it beautiful? Is it something that when I look at it, I have like a moment of epiphany? And that doesn't have to be quite that dramatic, but is this something that is pleasing in a good way? So that's
Yeah.
that I've talked about recently that seemed to kind of correlate with what you were saying there.
Yeah, no, I love that, and I think it's also worth acknowledging that, we live in a creative ecosystem, and we're not all just like we don't entirely understand our own ecosystem that we live in, the intricacies of all of that. Our cultural and creative ecosystems work in much the same way that, you could have a song that because it's, had this writer on it, gets pushed at this meeting to this thing. And then this artist ends up picking up that one song. And then at this right moment, it gets released to radio. And it just so happens that, radio is a thing at this point on the planet that we have that we won't always have, and that will look like a weird blip, at the end of all things, that we transmitted invisible craziness to other humans in the world. Like, And then there are these emotions and these ideas in this song that get transmitted across the planet. And not only that, they're flying out into space right now, continuing to travel away from our planet with no context whatsoever as to what they are, or the people in the known universe that we know that care about those tiny little waves will be us because we heard Landslide by Fleetwood Mac. You know, like, and that song will make me cry like every time. And there's such a huge chance that I may never have heard that song,
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
ever. But it doesn't mean I wouldn't have felt those emotional experiences. But that song is a release for so many people. Like, always something there to remind me, Naked Eyes. I always get happy when I hear that song. And that margin of like, we may never have been exposed to any of that is so thin that I'm just like, why wouldn't we spend our lives putting those kinds of things, that kind of craziness and weirdness, like, I don't know, out into space?
You know,
I
you know,
totally lost myself in the wonder of that story. I'm so sorry, Cliff.
This has to be, I mean, this sounds, what you just described sounds like it would make an amazing album cover. Like all these little like radio waves going off into this, like from this really noisy planet out into the galaxy.
Yeah.
I will volunteer to draw this for you.
Oh, please.
Yeah.
If you draw it, we'll use it.
Oh, you don't want to say that.
I kind of want to take a chance and commit to your artistic skill right now, Cliff.
All right. I'll work on that while you answer some questions. I got this for you right here. I'll do a mock-up.
Yeah.
So a couple of those quick questions just to wrap up. We had a couple questions from people in the chat. One of them was if you had any advice for the business side of music. And I don't remember who asked that because it was a long time ago. But and it is a broad question. So maybe there's like one specific heartfelt thing you feel about the business side of music.
I'm still figuring that out, and I don't mean to sound depressing, but I will say that I wish I had learned a long time ago that nobody's looking out for me and my career and being able to to have a sustainable career as a creator or a songwriter or a producer except for me. Like, nobody's coming to your aid. So when I say things like work with people who are super talented, work with people who know more than you do, work with people who are wiser and smarter. All of those things come from very real places and experiences. I think just be kind. Entering the music business, I will say that you absolutely will get screwed over by a ton of people, whether it's other bands, other artists, um, you know, the girl that you're dating right now while you're trying to find your footing as an artist. Like, you're going to experience so many struggles and trials and tribulations when it comes to that kind of stuff, but none of that should stop you from being kind. Be kind to the people that are mean to you. Be kind to the people that take advantage of you, because kindness attracts more kindness. And the way that you find other kind people is by being kind, because it's a homing beacon. Like, I feel so lucky to have the group of friends that I do in the music industry right now, because we're kind to each other. And that's the whole basis of our friendship, is just in a world full of people that were constantly, you couldn't trust them. You couldn't trust what they were saying. Half of them didn't know what they were saying. We just sort of became the people that were kind to each other.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's super powerful. And that's, again, a testament to something that I kind of felt like I was gathering from you earlier, is that you got to live in the moment and you got to say, how can I be the best person right now, rather than keeping on thinking about my possible future success.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Well, not to take away from that moment, but I did finish the artwork. So
okay. This is great.
Okay,
I love it.
That's what it is. And the name of your album is going to be Planet Radio.
Planet Radio. There.
I don't know if that's already a thing or not, but I got you. So
that's awesome. You send that over here. It's going up on the fridge, buddy.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Last question.
Okay.
Do you have any advice for the kids at home? This is your chance to hop on a soapbox, man.
For the kids at home.
Yeah. And for reference, we do have a wide range of listeners and viewers. They're typically between the ages of 12 and 24, equally split male and female. And they typically like music, like the kind of music that you write. A lot of them are trying to write music themselves. And they might know like the ukulele or the guitar. And they might have one or two friends they can show their lyrics to.
Yeah.
But they're still trying to figure things out.
Keep doing it. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. Show it to your friends. Have them laugh at you. Have them make you feel like the worst person in the world, and go home and tell yourself you're never going to do it again, that you're never going to put yourself out there, that you're never going to share your art with anyone, and then wake up the next day and do it anyway. And keep doing it and keep doing it until you become so creatively calloused that the only important thing to you is that you are putting your pixie dust on the planet. Because there's a huge difference between the feedback that you're going to get from people. Like, everybody has an ulterior motive. Everybody has a slant. Everybody has a thing, like when they're giving you advice. So take all advice with a grain of salt, but at the end of the day, just don't stop. Because if you don't stop and you keep doing it, you only figure out the advice to take by continuing to work on your craft. And nobody ever sat down and just like wrote a song, and it's the first song they ever wrote, and then it just becomes like the biggest thing ever, and the whole world takes notice, and they never have to worry about money again a day in their life. It's never happened for anybody,
That'd be nice, though.
Wouldn't it? Wouldn't that be great?
And that's great too, because that answers another question that I hadn't had time to ask, but it was from Alex. He asked how you deal with criticism, and for you, it sounds like you just keep going.
I think I just kind of love it. Like, if you're critical of my music, it means that you were thinking about it. and I love that. Like, if you don't like it, awesome. Tell me why not. I'm just more interested in the discourse, I'm like, you're an artist too. You have a preference. You just shared it with me. So like, if you don't like what I'm doing, go make something that you do like, because until you do, you're robbing us and the world of your creative output, which sounds like a snarky thing to say to someone, but it will shut them up rather quickly.
Just this very sincere thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh man. Hey, good times, man. Good times. Guys, I am going to share a link to the Eleventy Life podcast in the description of this video within a couple of minutes, and I'll also put one up on Twitter so that you guys can go check it out. Where should people check out your music?
You can check out everything that we are up to at EleventySevenIsAlive.com or at rockcandyrecordings.com. We have kind of a whole 11verse that you can involve yourself in with our podcast and music and everything else. But more so than any of that, just thank you guys for listening to what I had to say. And consider this your encouragement and your cattle call, that if you are writing songs, don't stop. Keep doing it, because one day maybe we're going to work together. One day maybe you're going to be here, or it's somebody else's studio, or writing for some other artist. So I believe in you.
To close us out, do you have that unicorn head that you showed me?
Oh yeah. This is my farewell acorn.
Perfect. This is absolutely perfect. All right, guys. This was Matt Langston from Eleventy Life. Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out his podcast. If you're looking to become a songwriter yourself, the Eleventy Life podcast will be super helpful to you as well. And you can check out the magical songwriting process in the description. Free download. It'll give you some steps to write original lyrics that sound good. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll talk to you later.